Well, here we are, and we're back in the Word and continuing in Romans chapter 8, really a section about our sanctification. So in chapters 3 through 6, 3 through 5, we learned all about the salvation that is ours. Now we're learning about the sanctification that's ours. It's as if Paul is kind of unwrapping a gift for us and showing us all the benefits that we have through our sanctification. And as you recall, one of the gifts is that we are free from the condemnation of the law. We're no longer under that condemnation. Talked about that in chapter 8, verses 1 through 4. Verses 5 through 9, he talked about our freedom from spiritual death. In verses 10 and 11, last time we talked about our freedom from physical death. And today we're going to talk about the result, the obligation, we can say. So let's move to Romans 12, chapter 8, verse 12. And we're going to read through 14. It says, "So then, brothers and sisters, we are under obligation, not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. For if you are living in accord with the flesh, you are going to die. But if by the Spirit you are putting to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For all who are being led by the Spirit of God, these are the sons and daughters of God." Obligation. Let's take a look at this. So then, verse 12. Paul is moving to the application now of what he has taught us up to this point. He's taught us about our freedom, our deliverance from the law, from spiritual and from physical death. These are gifts that are ours. They've been given to us. He's educating us. We're coming to know that more and more. And now he's going to make this connection. That's what "so then" means. He's making this connection between what's true, what's been given to us, and how we are to live. And he characterizes this as an obligation in verse 12. You see that? We are under obligation. Now, what is an obligation? Well, if we were talking about a financial obligation, we know what that is. That's a debt. That's something that we owe to someone that has to be paid back. We are constrained by that debt. We have to repay it. And what he's saying here is he's making an analogy between that debt, the obligation, not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. You're no longer under obligation. You don't have any kind of debt to pay to the flesh. That's all been taken care of at the cross. Jesus died for you. That's a done deal. But if you are by the Spirit, you are putting to death the deeds of the body, you will live. So this is not about earning salvation when he's talking about discharging a debt here or meeting an obligation. Salvation is a done deal. What he's talking about, we have a moral debt that's due to Jesus to live out the salvation that he's given us. He wants us to take that gift of salvation, which includes the gift of sanctification, which Paul is explaining here to us, and he wants us to live with that. He wants us to put that to work. He wants to put that to use. Let's say, for example, you received a Christmas gift from a close and dear friend who cost them quite a lot, cost them a lot of money, some sizable part of their income. But you never used that gift. You left it on a shelf. You left it in a drawer. You stored it in the basement. You never used that gift. That would be insulting, wouldn't it? That would be unappreciative if you didn't put that gift to use. Well, in the same way, Jesus has given us a gift, and he expects us to put that gift to use. And the way we put that gift to use is in verse 13. Putting to death the deeds of the body. Our due to him is to put to death sin in our lives. The outworking of sin and the inworking of sin. We have to discipline our minds and we need to discipline our body. The old word for this was called mortification, when we put to death sin. To mortify sin is to put it to death. And a lot of us are preoccupied with that part of our salvation, aren't we? We have particularly sensitive consciences, particularly on the lookout for things that we do that we have to stop doing, and that's all good. Mortification is to put to death, and we need to do that, and that's what Paul's calling us here. But he's also talking about not only putting to death the deeds of the body, but verse 14, being led by the Spirit of God. This is the other half of it. We put to death sin, and we walk by the Spirit. Living by the Spirit, walking by the Spirit, living out our salvation, that's called the old word vivification. So we have mortification of sin, which is putting it to death, and then we have our vivification, that is living by the Spirit. That's what we're called to do. That's the obligation that we have. That is what we owe Christ for what he's done for us. And again, as I've asked you in the previous 3 sections, I'll ask you today again, is this your response to salvation? Is this the experience that you have, that you are currently having? Are you both putting to death sin and also living for Christ? As you can see here, they go together. If you're obsessed with putting to death sin, you're robbing yourself, I think, of the fullness of the joy and benefits of your salvation. It's as if you are in a watchtower looking over your life, which is a great thing, and on the lookout for everything that does or might displease God. And every time you come across something that you are killing that, you are putting it to death. Don't get me wrong, that's a good thing, but that's not all of it. There's more joy for you to have. You need to be obsessed with living. You need to be obsessed, equally obsessed with not only putting to death, but walking by the Spirit. They go together. Only together do they lead to a response that God intends to bring you into the fullness of joy of your salvation. So again, before I go on, let me just point out again for your own study, Paul opens this with "so then," which means that he is reasoning from the fact that you've been delivered from the law, delivered from spiritual death, delivered from physical death. So then, because of this, as a result of this, you have an obligation. You have an obligation to live by the Spirit, not by the flesh, and an obligation to put to death sin. Both of those, they go together. 2 sides, 1 coin. So brothers and sisters, I encourage you to live by the Spirit and to put to death sin in your life. Join me in that. Join other brothers and sisters around the world that do that daily. You're not alone. We're all in this fight together. And put to death sin and live by the Spirit. God bless you.